Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you are standing on a large ship in the middle of the ocean. You have been traveling for many days and many nights. The air is cold, and the waves rise and fall beneath you. Then, suddenly, you notice something far away in the distance. A tall, green figure appears, holding a glowing light high above her head. It is the Statue of Liberty. For more than 100 years, she has stood in New York Harbor. But she is more than just a giant statue made of metal. She stands for something much deeper. She is a symbol of freedom. When people see her for the first time, many feel calm and hopeful. She is like a quiet friend waiting to welcome them. She seems to say, "You are safe now. You are home." This is the story of how she came to be. And it was not an easy journey. It took many years, many people, and a great deal of heart. Are you ready to hear her story? Let's begin. Think about the city of New York. It is full of noise, movement, and towering buildings. Yet Lady Liberty stands apart on her own island, away from it all. Every morning, she watches the sun rise. Over the years, she has seen many things. She has watched large ships and small boats pass by. She has lived through times of war and times of peace. Still, she remains right where she is. She is a beacon, a guiding light. In the darkness of night, her torch shines brightly, showing the way to those who are tired, lost, or searching for hope. The Statue of Liberty is a gift, but it is also a promise. A promise that freedom matters. A promise that it belongs to everyone. To understand this promise, we must travel back in time. The dream begins in France. Our story begins in France in the year 1865. A man named Edouard de la Boulaye had a powerful idea. He believed deeply in freedom, and he greatly admired the United States. One evening, he asked a simple but bold question. What if France gave America a giant gift? He wanted to celebrate the friendship between the two countries. Years earlier, France had helped America during its fight for independence. They had stood together during a difficult time, and La Boulaye wanted to honor that bond. At the dinner table that night sat another man, Frédéric Auguste Bartholdi. He was an artist and a sculptor. When he heard La Boulay's idea, something sparked inside him. Bartholdi did not imagine a statue of a king or a soldier. Instead, he pictured a giant woman, strong, calm, and kind, a woman who would represent liberty herself. He traveled to America to search for the perfect place. As his ship sailed into New York Harbor, his eyes landed on Bedloe's Island. In that moment, he knew, this is where she must stand. But building a statue that large would cost a great deal of money. Metal, tools, and skilled workers were expensive. And at first, the government did not want to help pay for it. Bartholdi refused to give up. He returned to France and began creating smaller models of the statue. He shared his vision with anyone who would listen. He explained that this was not a gift from one government to another, it was a gift from the people of France to the people of America. It was a dream powered by belief. They did not have the advanced machines we have today. All they had were their hands, their tools, and their determination, and sometimes, that is an oath. Every part of the Statue of Liberty has a special meaning. Bartholdi did not choose her appearance by chance. Every detail was carefully planned, and each one tells a story about freedom. First, look at her right hand. She holds a torch high above her head. The torch stands for light. It reminds us that liberty shines the way toward hope and a better life. Now look at her left hand. She holds a tablet, like a stone book. On it are carved Roman numerals. They show the date July 4th, 1776. This date is important because it is the day America declared its independence and became a free nation. The tablet represents the law. It teaches us that freedom must be protected by fair and just rules. Next, look at her head. She wears a crown with 7 sharp points. These points are like rays of the sun. They stand for the 7 seas and the 7 continents of the world. This means that liberty belongs to everyone, everywhere. It is not meant for just one country, but for all people across the earth. There's another detail that many people overlook. Look closely at her feet. Lady Liberty stands among broken chains. Chains are used to hold people back and take away their freedom. Broken chains show that those limits have been destroyed. She is stepping forward, Hawaii, from Tam. She is not standing still, says Mobing. This reminds us that freedom is a journey, and we must always keep moving toward it. Even her face tells a story. She looks calm, serious, and strong. Some people believe Bartholdi used his own mother as her model. Whether that is true or not, her expression shows dignity, courage, and quiet strength. Engineering a giant with Gustav Eiffel. Now imagine trying to build a statue that stands 151 feet tall. That is as tall as a 15-story building. Making something that big stand safely was a huge challenge. Bartholdi knew how to design a beautiful statue, but he needed help to make sure it could survive strong winds and harsh weather. The winds in New York Harbor are powerful, so he turned to a brilliant engineer named Gustav Eiffel. That name might sound familiar. Gustav Eiffel is the same man who later built the Eiffel Tower in Paris. Eiffel designed an iron framework to support the statue from the inside. It worked like bones inside a body, holding everything together. Over this metal skeleton, workers placed the statue's outer skin, which was made of copper. The copper was very thin, about the thickness of 2 pennies stacked together. Workers shaped it by hammering the metal from behind, a method called repoussé. It was loud, exhausting, and skilled work. The statue was built in pieces inside a workshop in Paris. First came the head, then the arms, and finally the body. People walking through the city could look up and see Lady Liberty slowly rising above the rooftops. One of the most amazing parts of Eiffel's design is that the statue can move slightly. When strong winds blow, she sways just a little. This flexibility keeps the metal from cracking or breaking. Imagine being a worker high above the ground, hammering metal as the wind rushed past you. It was dangerous work, and every piece had to fit perfectly. There were thousands of pieces in total. Building the statue was like putting together the largest puzzle the world had ever seen. How the people funded the pedestal. Even with the statue nearly complete, there was still a big problem. Money. The people of France were donating coins, but it wasn't enough. In America, the situation was just as difficult. The Americans were responsible for building the pedestal, the massive stone base that would support the statue. Many people complained. Why should we pay for a gift? They asked. The project came close to stopping altogether. Then, a man named Joseph Pulitzer stepped in. He owned a newspaper called The World. Pulitzer used his newspaper to speak directly to the people. He promised to print the name of every donor in the paper. Something wonderful happened. Children sent in their pennies. Workers donated a few cents from their wages. People with very little still wanted to help. Slowly, the money added up. Before long, they had enough to finish the pedestal. This showed that the Statue of Liberty truly belonged to everyone. It was not a gift from a king or a single leader. It was a gift from the people. In France, people also raised money through contests, events, and performances. Everyone felt proud to be part of something so important. This part of the story teaches us an important lesson. When many people work together, even the biggest dreams can come true. Sometimes, a handful of pennies is enough to help build something giant. At last, the statue was finished in France. Once the statue was finished, a new challenge appeared. How could they get Lady Liberty to America? She was far too large to travel in one piece. So, after years of building her, the workers had to carefully take her apart. Every section was unscrewed and wrapped with care. Imagine spending years creating something beautiful only to pack it into boxers. In total, the statue was placed into 214 large wooden crates. It was like packing the largest suitcase in the world. The crates were loaded onto a ship called the Eiffel. The ship carried more than 200 tons of metal across the Atlantic Ocean. The journey was dangerous. Storms shook the ship, and sailors worried about the heavy load. But at last, in June 1885, the Eiffel arrived safely in New York Harbor. The people of New York were thrilled. Thousands gathered at the docks to see the crates arrive. But there was a problem: the pedestal was not finished yet. For an entire year, Lady Liberty waited inside her wooden boxers on the island. Finally, the pedestal was ready. Now came the hardest part: putting the giant puzzle back together. Workers climbed high into the air using scaffolding and ladders. They used heavy tools and long metal bolts. There were no computers or modern machines to guide them. Every piece had to be placed by hand, and one mistake could cause serious danger. Slowly, Lady Liberty began to rise again. First her feet, then her flowing robes, and finally her head. At that time, the copper was a bright brownish-orange color. She was not always green. Over the years, the copper reacted with air and rain, forming a protective green layer called a patina. This is the color we recognize today. Rebuilding her was more than hard work. It was a celebration. Each day, the statue looked more complete, more powerful, like a queen standing tall. At last, the dream became reality. The date was October 28th, 1886. The day was rainy and foggy, but nothing could stop the celebration. A massive parade filled the streets of New York. Bands played music, people cheered, and excitement filled the air. It was one of the largest celebrations the city had ever seen. President Grover Cleveland attended the event, along with many important guests from France. Everyone had come to see the new Colossus. Bartholdi himself climbed up inside the statue, all the way to the torch. A French flag covered Lady Liberty's face. When the moment arrived, Bartholdi pulled a rope. The flag fell away. For the first time, the world saw the face of Lady Liberty. The crowd erupted with joy. Ships in the harbor blew their whistles. Cheers echoed across the water for miles. President Cleveland gave a speech, promising that her light would shine across the world and that America would always care for her. Two nations, separated by a vast ocean, were united in friendship. A dream that began 20 years earlier was finally complete. Lady Liberty was home. Soon after the statue was raised, a place called Ellis Island opened nearby. This was where millions of immigrants entered the United States. These people had left their homes because of hunger, poverty, or unfair treatment. They crossed the ocean, hoping for a better life. For them, the Statue of Liberty was the first sight of America. Imagine standing on a crowded ship after weeks at sea, scared and unsure of what lies ahead. Then you see her. Tall, calm, steady, welcoming. She felt like a mother greeting her children. She offered hope. A poet named Emma Lazarus wrote a poem about the statue. She called Lady Liberty the mother of exiles. One line became especially famous. "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free." These words are now carved inside the pedestal. Because of them, the statue's meaning grew. She was no longer only a symbol of friendship between nations. She became a symbol of new beginnings. For a child, she meant possibility. For a parent, she meant opportunity. For millions, she meant a future. Even today, many Americans remember stories of grandparents who cried when they first saw her. She is part of their family history. She is the face of the American dream. Today, Lady Liberty is more than 140 years old. Her green skin is thicker now, and time has passed, but she remains strong. Millions of visitors come to see her each year. They climb her stairs, stand beneath her crown, and look out over the ocean. They learn her story, but she is more than a monument. She is a reminder. Freedom is not something we can take for granted. It must be protected and cared for. Even today, there are people searching for safety, fairness, and a place to belong. Her torch still shines. Her message is still welcome. What does liberty mean to you? Is it speaking freely, learning and growing, feeling safe where you live? Lady Liberty tells us that freedom belongs to everyone, no matter where they come from or what language they speak. As we close this story, remember the copper and the iron. Remember the pennies given by children and the dream of an artist. And most of all, remember her light. Even in dark times, hope remains. Even small efforts can build something great. Thank you for listening to the story of the Statue of Liberty. May your own path always be guided by the torch of freedom.